Starting with you, Andrew. I mean, you mentioned the discussions about number 1 and number 2 in this class, and that's probably going to continue throughout the cycle. What were those conversations like in talking about David Sanders versus Bryce Underwood?
Well, Emily, I'm going to be honest. I mean, we kind of tabled that discussion until that May update. And then, I think it's going to go on through the senior seasons and then hopefully the All-Star events if those guys do participate in the All-American Bowl or the Under Armour All-America game. Look, I mentioned it with Bryce Underwood, 40-2, you go to one of those losses which came in the state final, and I thought I saw some things that, I wasn't questioning Bryce Underwood, but he had a chance to lead a game-winning drive there late in the fourth quarter, and I thought he looked out of sync, which really shouldn't be expected for the top-ranked prospect. Now, I'll be clear here, I've watched a lot of quarterbacks in this 2025 class, and a lot of them were in similar situations, and not many of them actually ended up leading those game-winning drives as juniors. So we like Bryce Underwood, but David Sanders has also been our guy kind of from the jump. Go back to him at the FBU Freshman All-American game. That's the first time I got eyes on him. So I know there's a ton of people, in the comments that have plenty of opinions about our rankings and whatnot. These guys we've been tracking for over 2 years now. We're going to get another year of them under our belt. So I think this conversation is going to go back and forth. And to be honest, I think our scouting team is a little bit of split about who should be 1 and who should be number 2. I'll finish with this. We feel the best about these guys. It was not easy getting to 16 this early. Bryce Underwood, David Sanders, they're for sure 5 stars for us.
I think the door is open, quite honestly, and that's not even an opening for David Sanders. That could be anybody else. I mean, you go down the list, we have some really talented players. I talked about how much I love the 2 corners committed to Ohio State. How about Tavian St. Clair, too? I think this is one of the most physically impressive quarterbacks that we've seen in quite some time, and that's saying a lot. We've had a lot of those guys over the last 2 cycles, but I don't know if it comes down to David Sanders, Bryce Underwood. I think the other thing that you have to consider with Bryce Underwood, and some might view this as a positive, some might not, but this is a guy that's reclassed. He's only 16 years old, and David Sanders has some questions as well when it comes to his ability to fill out his frame, play with mass. But I'll tell you this, David Sanders, his tape, when you turn it on as a junior, he answered a lot of questions. This was a guy that we fell in love with because of the size and because of the athleticism, his ability to recover. You turn on the junior tape and you fall in love with him for a lot of other different reasons as well. His ability to play with pop, power, move people at the line of scrimmage. He continues to develop into one of the most well-rounded prospects in the class. And as Andrew said, it was a discussion probably tabled for the future, but a guy that we feel really, really confident in going forward.
I do not envy the scouting team having to compare a quarterback to a 6'6", 270 offensive tackle, but that's what you guys get to do, and I just get to sit here and ask questions. So how about another one? We are months away from signing day, actually 2 weeks closer today than we were yesterday, but the final rankings for this class will come at a much later date. So Coop, what's the most important intel that you'll gather about these players over the next year?
We want to see the trajectory. That's the biggest thing. Andrew talks about the arrow all the time. I talk about ascending prospects. Where are they in their physical growth potential? Are they heading in the right direction? Are these guys that need to add weight? Do they need to lose weight? Have they verified some questions? Maybe there were some concerns going into the offseason. Will they run fast enough? Are there some questions about short area change of direction? Whatever it is, position flex, those are the questions that we want to answer this offseason. So for us, it's being able to get a little bit of a glimpse of where these players are headed into their senior seasons, which is a big focal point in the evaluation process. You want to see that arrow pointing up. And for us, listen, the top 16 expanding from 6, adding 10 more 5 stars, these are all guys that we feel really confident in, either their physical trajectory or how they really kind of translate onto the field as seniors. So that's the biggest sticking point for us. Are they trending in a positive direction? And I think you'll see, not with only the top 16, but really the guys in the top 64 we feel really confident in as well.
Just to add to this, I mean, we're going to get more data points. Data is king in the evaluation process. And Emily, you touched on it at the beginning of the show. You know, the NCAA is considering a summer signing window. So that means schools would sign kids after their junior seasons, and they would be locked into whatever they did as seniors. To me, that's like, okay, they're going to play the front 9, they're going to make the turn, and then what happens on the back 9? We're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Some of these kids are at powerhouse programs where they're not seeing the field as freshmen and sophomores. Not only are they getting bigger and more explosive, they're getting more comfortable playing the game of football. So for us, I mean, we're still going to value those senior seasons. We mentioned the multi-sport, out of our top 100 prospects in this top 247, I think close to 90 of the 100 are multi-sport guys. So we're going to see them in that type of setting, whether it be track, baseball, basketball, some other type of sport. And then you get, the Elite 11 finals in the summer. And then again, those all-star games. Yes, the All-American Bowl, we're going to start inviting juniors, younger players in there, but we still have the seniors technically penciled in for that. So it's an evaluation process. We want to gather as much information as we can. And that's why the recruiting calendar is set up the way it is.
And it's not just these multi-sport athletes, they're multi-positional as well. Two guys you mentioned, and Jonah Williams and DJ Pickett, you're still trying to figure out what position that they play. What does that process look like, Andrew, from an evaluation standpoint in terms of putting these guys in the right category?
That's always the fun thing. I brought up DJ Pickett. You could put him on either side of the ball. Jonah Williams, I just call him a positionless defender, but it's a guy that I want to put on my roster. I think for us, it really comes down, we're trying to put them in the neighborhood where they're being recruited. Now, internally behind the scenes, I think Cooper's more of an offensive guy. I'm more of a defensive guy. So let's go back to Terry Bussey last cycle. I like him on defense. Cooper likes him on offense. And I think we're going to have more of those conversations moving forward. So ultimately for us, when we're kind of pigeonholing these guys, it's where we expect them to play on Saturdays and Sundays. And really, it's where we believe the ceiling is the highest. And yes, Emily, you are right. I mean, you talk with people inside the scouting community, football is a genetics game. You can develop the skills, right? But you can't teach someone being 6'6" with, 36-inch arms and the ability to carry 280 pounds. So it's a process. It's not an exact science. But again, I'm going to bring up that line. Data is king, and that's why it's so important for us in this evaluation process.
It's important not to get bogged down in the weeds. I think a lot of times, you look at players like Michael Terry, Daryl Johnson. I'll talk with college programs that are a little bit concerned about where these guys fit in. You have to have a vision for the player. You have to project them. There has to be a plan once these guys get on campus. But right now, for us, where we are, we have the luxury of really just evaluating the athlete, and we feel really good about those two guys. And I'll use those two guys as an example. Michael Terry right now is a guy that has a lot of people's mind in a pretzel when you think about the scouting community, coaches as well, and collegiate programs. Some people view him as a running back, others view him as a receiver, other people think that he'll be served best on defense as a 4-3 linebacker. I think at the end of the day, if you're having a discussion about a guy that can play three different positions at a high level, you have something rare in a guy like Michael Terry. The same with Daryl Johnson. Is he going to be an edge? Is he going to be an off-ball backer? Those are all good things. At the end of the day, it's all about get the guy in the building. We'll figure it out. That's why those coaches get paid a lot of money to develop these guys at the next level. So it's always fascinating conversations. We're 9 months away from December. I think right now it's more just, hey, let's get a feel for the athlete and we'll figure out where we'll put them later.